and this is the Gonzaga Principles. I welcome you today, and I want to share something very important with you in the reading section. I'll be right back. Okay, I want to welcome you more importantly because without you, there'll be no us here. I want to thank all those that are subscribed to this channel. Thank you for your support. Thank you for also giving us that reason why we should be where we are today. And if you're watching this video, you're not subscribed yet, I encourage you to do so now. Go below this video and subscribe because the subscription gives us a thumbs up that we're doing a great job. So I know give us the support that we need today by subscribing. Today I want to talk about the written section. A lot of people find it very difficult really trying to get out with what we need to do when it comes to the reading section on the Ielts. And the reading could be very, very daunting if you don't really have the right strategies and techniques to help you go through. Today I'll be paying attention to how you can use the question to read the passage. So one of my greatest techniques I give to students when it comes to the reading section is to identify the question types, and that's defines or probably create a template on how you can read the passage. So I'll consider basically 5 question types today, and I'll also tell you how you can use those question types to read the passage. And don't forget, IELTS test will give you 3 passages to read and then 40 questions. In each of the passages, you have about minimum 13 questions to 15 questions for each of the passage there. And you have these at the back of your mind, you have about just 20 minutes to read these passage and answer questions that I won't set with them there. Basically, IELTS comes a lot with what we call TMI, too much information. This implies that you have more words than needed when reading the passage. So if you're reading the IELTS passage, have at the back of your mind, you don't need to understand everything you read in order to answer the entirety of questions there. In addition to that, everything you need to answer the question with is right there in the passage. So how do we begin with first? Naturally, the last passage on the IELTS test seems longer, so obviously you have to spend more time there. But since all passages are allotted 20 minutes each, you need to manage time effectively. So one of the strategies I'll be discussing with you today is known as using the question to analyze the passage. Okay, so one of the best ways to read any IELTS passage is to look at the question that comes alongside with it. So if I read my first passage, I look at my first passage first, and I look at the kind of questions I have there. Let's say, for instance, I start off with true, false, not given, and marching heads. So let's say the first 7 questions connects true, false, not given. Then from question 8 down to 13, we have the marching heads. So what I do first is I try to go back to the passage and skim the passage and scan. So 2 techniques I'll be talking about here. So first is skimming. So skimming the passage requires that you go through each of the paragraphs that makes up the passage, look at the first sentence and the last sentence, and you try to create what we call a paraphrase out of it. I'll take that again. Skimming requires that you look at the first sentence and the last sentence of the paragraph, and you try to connect a paraphrase. If the first sentence summarizes what the last sentence says, you don't need to bother about the body of the paragraph. All you just need to do is to summarize or paraphrase the first and the last sentence, and that gives you a picture of what that paragraph will be talking about. With that, you have the picture of what the passage can give as responses to the question. So once my question comes in true, false, not given form, or probably a marching head, I make sure I read everything in the passage by paraphrasing ideas beside each paragraph. Okay, so by looking at it carefully, I pay attention to the first sentence and the last sentence of each of the paragraph there in order to answer true, false, not given, and marching heads. Remember, the questions become chronological, so you have 2 ways to actually answer this question. You can answer the questions simultaneously, meaning as you're taking on the true, false, not given, you're also answering the marching heads at the same time. It requires a lot of practice anyways. So when I look at my first paragraph, I can have like 5-6 sentences there. I try to connect my question 1 to see if any of the statements that connect the ideas in the paragraph there, which could be true, false, or not given. At the same time, I'm looking at my question 8. Remember that's where the matching head question begins from. I can actually get which of the paragraph connects the box given to me in the question set there. So while I'm answering true, false, not given, I'm also taking a matching head at the same time. One good thing about our question is that they all come in sequential form, means they're all chronological, which implies that the first paragraph gives me my answer to question 1, then obviously I can't get the answer to question 2 in paragraph 1. Again, I have to go down to paragraph 2 to get the answer to question 2. So it flows in that manner. If you don't have the dexterity of answering the question side by side, I mean simultaneously, as in taking true, false, not given and matching heads at the same time, then you can do it one after the other or in turns, as the case might be. So what you need to do first is you look at the questions on the true, false, not given. You take the first paragraph to look at the first question, second paragraph, second question in that sequence. The moment you get to probably the 5th or the 6th paragraph, that would have taken you to question 7, which is the last question on this table of the true, false, not given. So what happens is the sequence ends there. The moment you're about to take the matching head, you have to go back to question to the first paragraph and you have to start the matching head questions. So the sequence or the chronological format of answering the question for the true, false, not given changes automatically once the question type changes. Okay, so to summarize things, once you're taking the true, false, not given questions or you're taking your matching questions, scheme the passage. The best way to scheme is to look at the first sentence and the last sentence. If they make sense, as in they say the same thing, paraphrase quickly, that gives an idea of what a paragraph is all about. But if they don't say the same thing, that means you have to read the body of that paragraph. It gives you a better picture of what the first and the last sentence are all talking about. Moving on. If the questions fall under multiple choice, text completion, or short answers, and a bit of classification too. So if you have any of these question types used under a particular passage, what you need to do is to scan, not skim. Remember, skimming, you have a general idea of what each paragraph is talking about. In scanning, you don't read the passage. You look out for information. So this is where the fast fingers and those that can actually pick up ideas fast with the eyes come into action here. So what I do first is if I have the multiple choice question, I go straight to the question itself, because the idea is you're not looking out for in between context meanings. You're just identifying keywords and connect them to the passage and see which of the options provided connects to the information in the passage. So in this case, I don't have to kill myself reading. So I look out for what I call the operative words. The operative words are words that define the question's term. Every question has got one. There could be 1 or 2 words in that question that when you take it out from the question loses form and context. So I pick up those words or those operative words which could fall into the open class words, which could either be a noun, a verb, an adjective, or an adverb. Primarily, a noun and a verb are key markers that could help us identify operative words. The examiners might likely give you synonyms to the verbs in the question's term, but they will never give you synonyms to the noun. A noun is always a noun, okay? So once you've seen the operative word in the question, meaning the key words in the question, let's take for instance, according to the passage, the basic problem of transportation is, now I'm looking at what could be the key words here. I'm looking at transportation and problem. Transportation problem. So these are my 2 keywords here. So I'm picking them up carefully and I go straight to the passage. Remember, transportation cannot change because that is my keyword there in the noun version. But the examiners could actually want to change the other word, which is the problem there, by giving me either challenges, setbacks, or drawbacks. So I have this all the back of my mind, so I try to follow up that particular trend there, not to go out of place there. So the moment I find a way to identify the keywords in the passage, remember I'm not actually reading the sentence, by sentence I'm trying to scan to see if I can find these words in the passage there. I quickly go straight to my options and I pick which fits in there. This same particular method should go for my text completion, classification, and short answers. Though they require a lot of practice, but when you put them into check and you practice time and time again, you definitely come out successful. The IELTS is very simple, but it requires a lot of techniques and strategies because the time isn't there for you to do this. I encourage you to keep practicing and keep me informed on how our practice is going. In my next video, I'm talking about the best way to actually analyze an IELTS passage. Do you have to read the first passage first or the last passage first? Remember, the last passage seems longer. So, what is the best technique to your reading spree when it comes to the highest passages? If you're not subscribed yet, I encourage you to do that now so you get notified when this video gets popped up in my channel. And remember, hit on the notification bell so you get notified when the video gets active on my channel. My name remains SOP Maxwell. Keep practicing. Remember the golden rule of the most principles? Practice at least 1 hour every day and it gets easier. Nice having you around today.